Voices from the Mausoleum is brought to you by the You Run Podcast Network and yourunpodcast.com.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum, and welcome to an episode of 5 Influential Horror. Panel looks a little different tonight. Paul A. Brooks has actually been here before. He is the writer-director and is actually an ex in as well, Hunting for the Hag, which Tom and I actually got early access to before it was released. I'll try to remember to link that spoiler-free review up ahead. And then, for the first time, we have Sierra, who is also a part of the team for Hunting for the Hag, is one of the actresses, one of the main leads in the film. So we kind of knew we wanted to talk more about the film, especially now that it's been out for a little bit. And Paul had the genius idea to do an influential horror, but base it off of movies that influenced the film. And so that's kind of why we're here tonight. So thank you guys for making time to be here. I'm excited to get a chance to talk about this again.
Sure, yeah. Always excited to talk to you, Angel.
Yeah.
My first time, so I'm just happy to be here.
That works.
I only get to meet you because Paul said such amazing things, and like I've heard of it, but
we have fun.
And an energy to it is nice. So
yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, because Paul came on for, you won one of our what did we call them? Viewer choice episodes.
Oh yeah.
You got to come on and chat with Steve and I about The Tall Man, which was an insane conversation. It was such a good time, and we knew we just wanted to do something else, and this was something that
I should have put that on my list for tonight. Dang it.
The Tall Man?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely had an influence on Hunting for the Hag, but we talked enough about that. So,
like
honorary
mention. The Hag is, or
huh?
I don't know if there's spoilers or not. I said how tall the Hag is.
Yeah. I mean, they're both pretty tall.
Or supposedly how tall the Hag is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, I of course want to give you an opportunity to kind of talk about because originally when we did our spoiler free, it wasn't even out yet, and we're well past that now. So where are we at in the journey for Hunting for the Hag?
Well, we started streaming in April, and now just earlier this week, or I guess maybe last week, we hit Tubi and Plex. So if you're a fan of Tubi, as a lot of people in horror are, head over to Tubi, where you can watch Hunting for the Hag for free. And also, if you, for whatever reason, like Plex better, if that's how you choose to live your life, it's available over there as well.
Do you want to give a brief synopsis of what the movie is? It's a found footage horror movie for anybody who may not be familiar, but do you want to give like a synopsis and talk through what that is, just for people who may not know?
Sierra?
Oh, yeah. So basically, there's 3 girls, best friends. They are venturing out into the woods to find the local legend, and they run into some trouble along the way. And that's it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
A lot of trouble. Yeah. No, it's great. Yeah. Tom and I were fans of it. We really enjoyed kind of the experience of, and both of us were big suckers for anything that's related to woodsy stories or anything related to that, because we're obviously big fans of the Blair Witch, the original. So but yeah, so kind of the formatting for tonight, for people who are used to the other format, is they have movies separately. So Paul has 2 movies that we're going to talk about. Sierra has 2, and then they have one that's joined. So we'll pivot back and forth and talk about the joint one last. But the first one on the list is The Descent, which was Sierra's pick. So yeah, kind of walk us through the process of putting that one on there.
Yeah, I was a big fan of The Descent. I liked that it had so many strong female leads in it.
Yeah.
I liked the build of tension between everyone as they began to explore the caves.
Yeah.
So that was a huge influence for me. It was just like the dynamics and how women talk to each other without like the male point of view. You know what I mean? Like how we talk to each other like in private is sometimes completely different than like what a man would perceive, what we talk about. So I was trying to get as natural as possible with the banter and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then I think one of the main moments in the movie that really impacted me even before we started started writing Hunting for the Hag was
Yeah.
the very end
Mm-hmm.
when the main character escapes, and it's just that like long scene of her like getting back to her car, getting into the car
Yes.
and just like sobbing.
Yeah.
It was very impactful for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know
Yeah.
why, just like that they really sat in the okay, I survived, and like the processing that
At
happens
that moment.
after that. Because I feel like a lot of movies, they
Mm-hmm.
cut away from that. Like once the
Yeah.
action's done, they like the
Yeah.
story just bleh, you know.
Yeah.
And the aftermath is what I think, no matter what it is, even if it's like a mystical creature or something that's
Sure.
completely made up,
Yeah.
that human emotion of processing something very traumatic and coming out of it and realizing you're alive is
Yeah.
something that I think any human can
Yeah.
just relate to. So
Yeah. And I wanted to comment to what you said about kind of the way women speak to each other. I think that's one of the because I feel like that's one of the things I said when Tom and I talked about it originally was that the dynamic of the friendship felt so realistic to me. Because to your point, you see stuff all the time where there's these female dynamics that just don't make any sense, or they always hate each other for some stupid ass reason, or
or they're
there's
making
always
out like
yes, it's one
let's
extreme or the other,
practice
right?
kissing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is
So,
fine if you did, but you
but
know.
no, I know what you're saying. So to your point, I think that makes sense because I did feel that these friendships, they felt very lived in. They felt very realistic, and the chemistry and the dynamic of those conversations, because obviously each one of you are different people, you're different characters, and you have different personalities, but bringing those together felt very natural. So that's kind of a cool point to think about the dynamics of the friendships in the Descent. So that's a really good shout.
Yeah, thank
I
you for saying that.
I appreciate you saying that, Angel, and it was really nice, co-writing the movie with Sierra because um, I would sort of like have a outline of the plot, and then as we were going through scene by scene, Sierra, obviously, I think helped a lot in terms of making the characters feel authentic in that way,
Yeah,
and
we
kind
did a
of
great job.
keeping me away from some of my stupid bullshit. So it was really nice.
Yeah.
But that's what I appreciate about like working with Paul, because we each
Yeah.
have like we have a good balance of like our strengths and weaknesses.
For sure.
And like you were very honest, like you told me, hey, like you should handle this because I think you'd know best.
I
Yeah,
love that.
it just
And
makes sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
and like yeah, I just appreciate that. Like it made the whole process like really fun and easy. And like I said, you kind of
Yeah.
helped with, like the moments in the script where I'm like, oh my God, there's a lot going on. I don't really know how to organize the scene. Like
Yeah.
everything's happening.
Yeah.
And he's really good at like keeping track of everything that's happening in the plot. And even when things are getting chaotic in the moment, he can
Sure.
navigate it really well in the script. So
I'm the
That's really
structure
cool.
guy. Can
Yes.
I go off on a 45-second tangent about something?
Absolutely.
We were just talking about horror movies that are good at processing things after they happen and sort of dealing with the repercussions. And I just watched a movie last night that was really good at that. It's not on my list, but Angel, have you seen In a Violent Nature?
No, not yet.
Okay.
I have a weird relationship with gory movies or violent movies that are just that. I need something else. So I wasn't sure if that was going to be like I'll never see the Terrifier movies. I'll just never watch them. I
Sure.
respect them. I mean, I respect them so much. I think the guy that plays Art seems like such an amazing guy. Like I watch him interact with fans and stuff all the time on videos and stuff online, but it is just not for me. I need like depth. I need like a purpose. And I wasn't sure if that was one of those we don't have a purpose or we do. I wasn't really sure. So I haven't seen it yet.
Okay. Sierra, have you seen it?
I have not, no.
Okay. Well, it is gory, so I don't want to lead you down the wrong path, but I was really surprised. I thought that there were some interesting things, especially in the maybe the last third of the movie that dealt with things in a very interesting way that I wasn't expecting. So I would say there is a little bit more to it than
That
just
gives
the
me
gore.
hope.
It doesn't feel like Terrifier to me or anything like that.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have a problem with gore. I just need it to have a point.
Yeah.
If it doesn't have a point, it's just not my cup of tea. I think it's great that people can just cut their brains off and just enjoy stuff like that. No problems with that. And I know tons of people that are big Terrifier fans, but it's just not my thing.
I will say something really quick on Terrifier because I'm a huge fan. And if Damien is for some reason watching this, like I want to work with you. But I was also the same way. Like I do not like gore just for gore slashery. Like it never appealed to me at all.
Yeah.
And the first one was like that. To be
Okay.
honest. It was just that.
Just that.
But
Okay.
the second one,
Mhm.
it's like very long. I think it's like over 2 hours.
Yeah.
And the characters are fantastic. And there's a
Okay.
lot of story and development. And I don't think you need to see the first one.
That was going to be my follow-up question. I was going to say, can I just skip it then and watch two? Okay.
I think the first one was just like I know that he was a makeup artist, a Damien Leon or whatever.
Yes.
And that kind of influenced like him making something like super gory and stuff was because he like knew he wanted to try things out. So I think Terrifier, the first one, was just kind of like, let's just do this.
Yeah.
And then once it got its like attention and stuff and it got more money,
yeah,
I feel like he could really like build out like a story. And
that makes
the
sense.
second one was very enjoyable.
Okay. All right. You've convinced me. I'll have to give two a shot eventually. We have children that don't ever go to bed, so I'll have to watch it.
Oh yeah.
Or something later, or I actually watch a lot of movies at work, so I could probably watch it there because it's just it would just be kind of like in my desk. But yeah, because that's the only reason I haven't seen that one yet, Paul. It's one that I was intrigued by.
Yeah.
But I just need more than just violence. Like
I hear you.
Like just something. It can be gruesome, it can be brutal, it can be gory, bloody, whatever, as long as there's like something else going on. So
there's a story. There is a story to it.
Well, that's good to know. I wasn't sure because when it came out, all people said was gore, 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 which is the same thing they did with Terrifier. I never hear people talk about it, the way you just did, Sierra. So it's like I've just been kind of like, I don't know, probably not for me. But
and then quick plug for Terrifier 3 because Dan Roebuck, who's in our movie, is also in Terrifier 3. So there's a nice little connection there.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's Santa Claus. He's the Santa Claus that the Terrifier kills. I think it's
Sierra,
a small
that's
thing.
That's your in to work with.
I know. I feel like because the first the Philadelphia Unnamed Film Festival, like I was there with one of the founders and they were telling me that like Terrifier, like before it got big, was at that same festival because they filmed down the street or like whatever, like there was a warehouse that they filmed at. And I geeked out then because I was like, whoa, like I'm at the same festival, And then now our guy's in his movie.
I mean, Dan's in everything though.
That's true. But he's Santa Claus. That's
an epic role to have in that movie.
Yeah, so, like all the marketing.
Keep your eyes open for him.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that's super cool. I had no idea. I'll give them a shot. I'll probably start with Terrifier 2 and I'll see, and if I really like it, then obviously whenever 3 is available, because I probably won't go to the theater to see it, but whenever it's available on VOD or whatever, I'll probably watch it and then give in a Violent Nature a chance too. Then I just need story, something,
I'm sorry, it was way longer than 45 seconds.
You're fine. You've been here before. This is just how it goes. Tangents are just.
I think we all built off of that tangent, though.
Yeah.
So, like
enablers is what I think we are called in that sense. But yeah, it happens all the time. I don't know how to not do tangents genuinely. So it's totally fine. Tangents are welcome here.
Cool.
Yeah. So the next one we're going to talk about is actually Paul's pick, which is Mother's Day.
Yeah, that's kind of how the genesis of the movie started. Mother's Day was playing on the last drive-in with Joe Bob Briggs one night.
Yeah.
A handful of years ago.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those moments where I hadn't seen it before. Yeah. I'm not even necessarily a big fan of the movie. I don't think I've seen it since that night.
Yeah, I don't think
but
I've seen it
it
once.
sparked the initial idea for the movie. It was just one of those things where the
Huh.
gears started turning in my
Yeah.
head.
Yeah.
And I said, what if we did something kind of similar to this idea, but put a found footage twist on it? So that's why it's a big influence, because that was sort of the starting point for
That's
Hunting for the
cool.
Hag.
If I ever go back and rewatch it, that's going to be at the forefront of my brain because I know I've seen it, but I'm pretty sure I've only seen it like probably only one time. I don't think I've ever seen it more than once.
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, there's the idea in the movie of Queenie is
Yeah.
like this, you know, they keep talking about her, and there's this big question as to whether or not, you know, there's a lot of other elements that are similar to Hunting for the Hag if you kind of compare the two. And then there's the ending of Mother's Day is also kind of similar to Hunting for the Hag. So, and I feel the same way with The Descent, where like if you watch maybe the first 20 minutes of The Descent, it's like we just carbon copied that basically. Pretty, you know, but I mean that's what inspiration is there for, and influences are there for, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
'Cause
yeah.
the movies are completely different, so it's
No,
like
for sure. Yeah. 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 It's interesting what you can pull from other things like that, though, because I feel like people who are, you know, kind of like outside horror, right? Who don't really watch it, aren't really into it, and they're like, oh, horror is just XYZ, right? There's so much more to the formula of horror than just jump scares and monsters or slashers or whatever. There's and it's interesting to see the layers from the other films start to kind of make the one for Hunting for the Hag. So that's actually pretty neat. To Mother's Day wouldn't have even, I'd never even, I mean, even watching it, I would have never even thought about that. So that's, I'm going to be thinking about that now on any rewatch of either movie. I'm going to be like, oh, Mother's Day.
Cool. Yeah. I should rewatch
Oh,
it too. Like I said, I haven't seen it
yeah.
since that night that I watched it, and next time I see it streaming somewhere, I gotta pop it on.
Yeah, yeah. Be interesting to see what you think through it, having already released the movie that it inspired or, you know, kind of got you working on. Be
Right.
curious to see where you fall with it after that.
Yeah. Because, you know, they say that you make three movies: the one that you write, the one that you shoot, and the one that you edit. And there wasn't a whole lot of, you know, major differences. We'll get into it a little bit later, but
Yeah,
you know, it probably is quite different from some of the concepts of Mother's Day.
sure. Yeah. Were you, and I don't remember if we talked, I don't think we brought this up the last time you were here, Paul, but was there a lot of changes of stuff while you were filming, or was it pretty much what you guys wanted it to be originally? Did it change a lot or evolve?
It changed a lot in a particular way that I wanted to talk about when we get to my next pick. So we'll
Got
save
it.
that.
I'll pause it for now. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Um, okay, got it. All right. So the next pick is going to be Sierra's, which is Blair Witch 2016.
Blair
Which
Witch
is
3.
yeah, yeah, Blair Witch 3. So yeah, take it away. I want to hear this one.
yeah, as it's the 2016 one, I think mainly because I had seen the first and the second,
Mhm.
but I hadn't seen this one. And while we were writing, Paul recommended me to watch this. He's like, "Hey, you should watch it." So, um, I like that's where like I pulled from the most when it comes to the Blair Witch saga or
Yeah,
series.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Um, so Blair Witch, all the movies in general, it's just how do we keep it interesting? We're in the woods almost the entire time, if not the entire time,
Yeah.
and the building of tension between characters over a long period of time.
Yeah.
So that really helped with the like just walking through the woods scene and then all
Yeah.
the way up until the tree scene because there's tension building in there too.
Yep.
And that's pretty much it. That was what I was trying to figure out was just like, how do we keep this interesting when we're walking around the woods? How do we keep
Yeah.
people engaged?
Yeah.
And yeah,
And also the technology. That I think one of
Oh,
the main reasons that I recommended you watch it when we started writing the film was the technology
sure.
aspect of Blair Witch 3, which
Mhm.
is quite different from the
mm,
first film. And
Yep.
obviously, you know, look, if you're making a found footage movie, original Blair Witch Project is just going to be an influence. It's not on the list because I feel like it's just
It's
obvious.
a no-brainer, right?
Right.
Sure. Yeah.
But with Blair Witch 3, they get into some interesting things. Obviously, it just looks a lot nicer because it's all in HD and it's,
Oh.
2016, so it's a
Sure.
lot later.
Yep.
And I wanted to make sure that we made a found footage movie that looked pretty nice for the most part. We shot it in 4K.
Yep.
And certainly there's some grainy, once you get into the gnarlier stuff, it gets grainier and starts glitching out and stuff like that. But for a good portion of the film, it looks pretty good,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I feel like Blair Witch 2016 just looks really nice. The colors are lush, the cameras look good, and I just wanted some of that in the movie as well.
Yeah.
And then also the little, I don't know if you remember, but they have these little earpiece cameras.
Mhm.
And they utilize those to great effect because it's a great way to get around the issue of why are you still shooting? They don't have to think about it. And we kind of incorporated that as well.
Harness.
Yeah, we have a GoPro in ours so that,
You
the
don't
girls
even
don't have to think about it.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think, and that's the thing is like when you're a big found footage person, and I mean, probably not even huge found footage fans, but that is always the thing, right? It's like, why is this horrible thing happening and you're still worried about this, right? Or you're still worried about whatever. And so adding it to something that is already on you that does not require you to pay attention to it, I think that's super insanely smart filmmaking. And I think in general, incorporating things like that, like what you're talking about, what you did in Hunting for the Hag is, I love that found footage is in this movement of changing up the technology that's being used, because now found footage is doorbell cams, drones, body cams, harnesses, like you said, the little ear things, or people who wear them up here.
Yeah.
Like there's all these different sorts of technology that are perfect ways to get around that, but are also showing the advancement of time without pretending like everybody. Some people still do. I do have a friend that just did a found footage movie completely with old ass, like a 90s hand cam, which is great, but not everybody's doing that, right? So it's a cool way to show that this is found footage through a more modern lens, literally, because you're doing the technology of the time. So I think that's great. That's super smart filmmaking.
Yeah, I think that's part of the fun part of found footage, and fans of found footage. I think a lot of them are fans of sort of just technology in general. And so like, if you go to any, if you go to any of the found footage festivals that me and Sierra have been to over the last couple years, you can see where like, okay, this is a 4x3 1998 JVC Handycam, and people are really into that. And then next can be a 4K movie shot in 2022. It's just completely different styles, and that's part of the fun of it.
Yeah. And doing cameras that way, did y'all have a lot of issues getting them to kind of, I guess, look or get what you wanted them to get?
Yes.
Did we?
Well, I'm only saying yes because, I had to like man the camera, and I know Alexa had to man the GoPro camera. And I mean, specifically at the hanging tree.
Yes.
Because there's a lot happening acting wise as well. And it's dark. And now we have two cameras that we have to make sure that we're kind of cheating towards each other without the other person's camera seeing that we're like purposely cheating. Like,
sure. That's a good point.
There is a lot. And then I also had a flashlight, and I had to kind of like make it look natural that I had like a light on people's faces, and making sure like in the moment when, we're meeting people.
It
was a lot. It was a lot for all three of you to have to do that.
To manage.
That one specifically, like that scene specifically. After and before, it was like, okay, but I remember we were struggling with that.
But I will say that from a director's standpoint and from a technological standpoint, it all pretty much looked exactly the way I wanted it to. Because in that sense, it's like, well, I know that I'm asking a lot of my actors to be holding the cameras while they're acting, but if it looks kind of shitty, that's okay, because it's like, they're in a difficult situation where it's probably not supposed to look very good.
That's fair.
So, at the beginning of the
Oh, that's
movie, it
fair.
looks nicer because they're getting interviewed and everything is fine.
Yeah.
And as you progress farther and farther, it's like more this,
Yes. Yeah.
which,
Yeah.
well, your reaction to that will vary just depending on who you are. I know that there's some people who literally cannot handle the shaky cam stuff. And so we tried to find a balance where there's some of that, some other stuff going on,
Yeah.
so that it's not too
No.
much for people.
Yeah, I don't feel like there's too much of it, but I think the other thing too is with the advancements of technology, like and specifically more like when I'm thinking about phones, or I don't know what they're called, but there's these, they're not really selfie sticks, but they're what are they called? The things that hold camera tripods. There's like these little small, I don't know why that word escaped me. There's like little ones that like will actually move to balance your phone so that your phone doesn't move at all.
Oh,
So,
right.
The
yes.
DJI? Yeah, I have one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, which is super cool because like, I mean, and the shaking thing I think is to me sort of nostalgic, I think, because it's just been in so many of the ones that I've seen and the ones that I love, obviously specifically the Blair Witch to start. But there is technology now where like believe it or not, I've heard people complain about that not being in some. It's like, but it doesn't have to be in all of them anymore because the technology isn't that way anymore. And there is a way to make logical sense of how you're filming something where even if you're holding it, it's completely still because it's
Right.
got that, whatever that technology is that makes it balance out. But
Yeah.
it's, yeah.
I think it depends on like the movie itself and like who
Yes.
the antagonists are, like
Sure.
what's happening. Because it's like with searching, it's they're doing it all on like webcam and like door cameras and stuff like that. And
Exactly. Yeah, no, you're
I'm
right.
in a small part of searching. If you
Yeah, Sierra's in searching.
for like search for me in searching, see if you can find me.
It was so
I didn't
funny.
know that. Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
I went to the theater to see it. I went by myself one day to the theater. I like John Cho a lot, so I wanted to go see it.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there in the theater by myself, and I'm like, "Is that Sierra? What the hell?" And she had forgotten that she'd done it, so she didn't tell me.
I forgot. And so like Paul wasn't the only one. There's just like random people being like, I think I saw you in searching. And it's funny because in the moment I specifically my cool lighting died. Oh, I'll have to embrace
You look
the
fine.
darkness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
join the dark side.
Oh man, now I lost my train of thought. There's just like a
Searching.
moment that like a bunch of like people had to like run, and I specifically made sure my path ran straight to the camera so that like I could get a good face. And it worked.
It's very
They used
obvious.
it, and
That's amazing.
I was just like hogging the camera. Yeah.
Oh, that's great though.
I did that too in I did background work on an episode of The Last Ship on TNT.
Oh yeah, I know that show.
And I met the president on the show,
Uh-huh.
and then there's a bomb threat on the show, and all of us are supposed to rush to the door and like cause a like trampling situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I said, I don't want to get stuck in this, so I'm going to get on a chair. Nobody told me to do this, but I just stood on a chair. So if you can watch the episode, there's this sea of people trying to get out, and then just me on a chair banging on the door.
The smart one.
Yeah.
Oh,
Background work is fun.
That's
yeah,
funny.
definitely.
Yeah, I miss it.
Yeah.
But I brought up
Um,
searching because like in that movie, it's like you don't need shaking to like add to like the scariness because the type of scariness is much different than
Yes.
being out in the woods with a mystical creature.
Very different.
Whatever.
Yes.
So like the shaking kind of like adds to the like audience experience. I feel like it
Yep,
makes
I
your
agree.
body feel shaky and nervous.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
Just depends on the context of the story, basically.
yeah.
No, for sure. Yeah, because there's Isaac Rodriguez has done like 50 million found footage movies, but he did one called Unknown Visitor that is just footage from a Ring doorbell.
Wow.
Is that the Japanese movie?
No, it's no, this one is it's really short.
Are you thinking of The Ring? Did you confuse
No.
Ring doorbells with The Ring?
No, we watched it at the Philadelphia Unnamed Film. Remember?
Oh, one of the movies that was playing there?
Yeah, but I think it was shot the same way. Sorry.
No,
I'm
you're
not
fine.
sure
No,
about that.
but to your point, like that one is just straight and narrow footage. It's like less than all of his movies. I think are like barely an hour. They're very short, which totally works for found footage. That's not a complaint at all. But it was just it's really cool because it's literally just that footage, and that's it. And so there's no need for, to your point, there's no need for it to be anything else because that's what's telling the story.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Makes sense.
no, that makes sense. Which is actually probably a pretty good segue into the next one we're going to talk about, because this one is not found footage, which is Paul's pick, Blair Witch 2. I assume it's Book of Shadows.
Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2, which I have a secret soft spot for. I guess it's not secret anymore. Well, it hasn't been secret for quite a while. I go out of my way to talk about it, and I know that it makes some people mad, but I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And what I was alluding to earlier, we got ourselves into a little bit of a bind when we finished shooting the movie and I had put together the first rough cut of the film. It ended up being short. We didn't have enough movie. And so Sierra and myself and our executive producer, Seth, got together and just sort of brainstormed. We need to get this thing closer to 90 minutes. What could we do in order to do that? And that's how we came up with the bookends for the film. At the beginning and the end of the film, we kind of completely recontextualized the entire thing.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of that subconsciously, I didn't realize it when we were going through this process. A lot of that is very similar to Book of Shadows in the sense that there's sort of these interrogation scenes and it jumps forward and back in time a little bit. And kind of like is the framework for that story.
Yeah.
So, and I'm, I always say that I'm really happy that ended up happening because I think it ended up making our movie stronger, having those bookends and being able to play with things. And also there's a section in the middle that is not found footage. And so we're kind of playing with a couple different formats. We're playing with some styles.
Yeah.
A lot of people have been pissed off about it lately. I don't know why, but the found footage diehards, the found footage diehards just do not like that part of the movie, and we've gotten a lot of complaints.
Really?
To be fair, a lot of like people who aren't necessarily in that community have said, "Oh, my favorite part was like when it switched."
The
narrative. So it just depends on like who you are and what you like. It's so.
Yeah, I think I know that there are people who really do like to argue, like definitively something can't be a found footage movie if blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, as much as I love the subgenre, I'm just not as like weird about that stuff. Like, I really don't care. Like, to me, it's like, as long as it makes sense, right? As long as it's not something that, like, there's these scenes in what is it called? Incantation, that they switch from POV to third person somewhere. Somebody's filming, no idea who it is. And it changes so abruptly that it takes my brain like a second to be re-engaged. I'm like, okay, what the fuck is happening? Okay, got it. And then I'm back in, right? But I didn't feel that way with this. So I think that for me, all I care about is it has to flow. And as long as it flows, it's okay that happens. I think it's totally fine. It doesn't, it doesn't take away the validity or like the title of it being found footage. But I know what you're talking about. I have seen people be like that. So
I totally agree with you and we made sure that like, okay, if we're going to do this, because we weren't sure if we wanted to do it, but it's like, if we're going to do this, we really have to make sure it's clear. So we changed the aspect ratio. We put a bunch of film grain on it. There was a score that kicked in all of a sudden. It's like, this is totally different now, right? So there's no ambiguity about it.
Sure.
I have seen some found footage movies. Like I just watched the last Paranormal Activity movie, Next of Kin. That confused the hell out of me because it kept going back and forth. Yeah.
Yep.
So like if you're gonna do it, because not everybody's gonna like it, but if you're gonna do it, at least make sure that you make a clear cut switch so that there's no confusion there.
Yeah, it has to make sense. It
Yeah.
can't be, it has to, like you said, it has to set itself apart enough for you to switch in your brain of what you're looking at, but it can't be so abrupt that you're completely lost at what's
Yeah.
happening. So,
From how I
And
remember it,
no, go ahead, Sarah.
from how I remember it, it was like we weren't, maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm remembering it wrong, but what I remember is we were like, what, okay, well, at this point in the movie, why would they still be filming?
Yeah, we were
yeah,
just
And
trying to
like,
get around the trope of why would they still be
Sure.
so
filming? Well,
that's,
what if they didn't?
yeah,
yeah,
so Paul was like, well, what if they didn't? Well, what if you just threw the camera on the ground
Yeah.
and stomped on it? And I was
Yeah.
like, yeah. And then we're like,
makes
oh,
sense.
that'd be fun. And then we
Yeah.
switch. So, and then we have the GoPro still to switch, back
Yeah.
to.
No, it's perfect. Makes sense.
So it wasn't like, oh, we want to do this flip in the middle. How do we get there? It was we're writing a found footage and we're coming to a point where we're like, it doesn't make sense for them to
Yeah.
still have the camera at this point because the
Yeah.
tension's so high. What's
Yeah.
gonna happen? It breaks. And we
I think
just
that's fine. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
And
don't.
what's
Yeah,
really been pissing me off lately, to be honest, is we've gotten some reviews and people saying like, oh, they just got to a point where they couldn't figure out what to do, so they just dropped the found footage, and all of a sudden it's this different thing they just couldn't figure it out. I'm like, listen, if we wanted to just keep making a found footage movie, we would just do that.
sure.
We we
Yeah,
made a choice. We made an artistic choice. If you don't like it, that's okay. But
yeah.
don't tell me that we didn't know what we were doing. That's just goofy.
No, that's rude. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I think the other thing is, and I'm not a filmmaker, right? But I know enough filmmakers, and I talk a lot about filmmaking that I think some people just have a very narrow perspective of what filmmaking is even supposed to be, right? And so they go into these things assuming it's very cookie cutter, when in reality it's not. The decisions that are made for a reason, and they're made based on the story or how things have to evolve or something gets changed or whatever the case may be. And I think a lot of it is just people get so stuck on these really insignificant things and then project into, or pretend rather, to know more about what's going on than they actually know. And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I know. I hate that for you, because I didn't feel disconnected by that switchover at all. And I think, it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? Because if you keep filming where it doesn't make sense, then they're going to bitch about that. And if you switch, if you switch gears or you do something a little bit different, they're going to bitch. It doesn't matter what you do, it's the wrong thing, right?
Yeah.
And like I said, I don't have if you don't like it, if you don't like the stylistic switch, I have no problem with that.
Sure.
What I
that's
have a
fine.
problem
Yeah.
with is thinking that the writers just didn't know what to do and just had to come up with that because they couldn't figure out anything else. That couldn't be farther from the truth. It was actually, there was a lot of discussion as to whether or not we wanted to do that. And we just made the decision to do that.
I will also say, like, isn't that the beauty of like making movies independently? Like, we don't
Yeah.
have a whole
Yes.
studio giving us a booklet of rules and like you have to do it this way.
Ah,
Like
well said.
the whole purpose and like the great thing about independent filmmaking, like, yeah, maybe you don't have enough money, like as much money as like the big studios, but like you also have the creative freedom to like kind of have fun and experiment and do something different. And
Yeah.
that's what like pushes cinema forward, is people try out things and then people like it and you can
Yep.
create a whole new subgenre. So
No, well said. Yeah, and to kind of piggyback off of that, I think that's one of the reasons that indie filmmakers tend to make better movies. For several years in a row now, when I start thinking about, standout movies of the year, or if I'm going to do like a top 10 list, these bigger productions just don't cut it. Because
Mhm.
it's all the same shit over and over again. And so then you're looking at indie filmmakers, and you're thinking, oh my God, there's diversity, there's messaging, there's like amazing cinematography for these super small budgets. They're doing something new, whether it's film techniques or concepts or whatever. And that you just can't get that from these like massive production companies, because they're like car companies. They just mass produce these things and they just shoot them out and hope for the best, right? Whereas indie filmmaking, I feel, carries a lot more passion for the project, which is why I would never assume that somebody just like half-assed did something because they ran out of ideas. Like I would never say that about an indie filmmaker, because I feel like that's, if you've ever met one, then you would know that that's just not how they work. So
Yeah, we tend to take bigger risks because we can,
Yeah.
right? We have the freedom to do
Yeah.
that. And so,
Yeah.
in that sense,
Exactly.
it's a lot more fun
Yeah.
to sort of just try different techniques and take bigger risks that the studios can't
Absolutely.
do. Yeah.
And we're not in it for the money. Like we're in it
Well,
we're in
I'd
it
like to
because we
be.
want to do it. Like
You
it
wanna
would be
do it.
nice. Wouldn't it be nice? Like obviously that's the goal, but like
Yeah.
you have to have the passion and love and heart to like have a full-time job and like make a movie on the
And
side or
still
like do whatever. Like you have to want to do it. So like with indie
Yeah.
filmmaking, like you're having fun. Like so just have fun. And I don't think people should have such a stick up their ass about certain
I
things like
agree.
that. If
No, I
then
agree.
go to the theaters and go watch Mission Impossible 1500 or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, very well said. No, I totally agree with that. I think I get so tired of like, and it's funny because I'm surrounded by all kinds of horror fans in the community that I've kind of surrounded myself with. And it's so funny because we all have different, obviously very varying opinions on what makes good horror versus not good horror. And it's so funny because I'm so unimpressed with major films. Like I just watched the last big one I just watched was Cuckoo, and everybody was losing their minds over it. And I was like, eh. I was like, I mean, I love Hunter Schafer. I will watch anything that she's in, genuinely. But the movie itself, the concepts and stuff, I was like, I'm so sick of the specific theme of this movie. There has been like 6 movies released this year that are similar enough in nature that once the stuff kind of pieced together, I was like, I'm so sick of this shit. Like, so yes, I'm with you. Like I would much rather take the time and invest my viewing time in indie films, because they really do push the boundaries. Like you said, you can do things that you want to do because you don't have anybody else trying to control it or tell you what to do next. And so, yeah, I agree with what both of you said. Very well said on both accounts. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. So that takes us to your joint pick, which is our final movie that we're going to talk about. I'm excited actually to hear about this one specifically, because this movie is held in very high regard in the horror community, I feel like. But it's Mandy.
Yes. Well, we saw it in the theater together.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, we saw it. I
It was
think
at the
probably.
Vista, right?
Yeah, we were at the Vista in LA.
Very cool.
And I think it was pretty close to opening weekend. I mean, it was when it first
wow.
came out in 2018.
Yeah.
We went to see it. And I think both of us, Sierra, tell me if I'm wrong here, but I think both of us came out of it sort of processing a lot and not like super blown away at first.
Okay.
And I don't know that my opinion, I really like the movie. I wouldn't put it like in my, top 10 list or anything like that, but it influenced Hunting for the Hag in the narrative section that we were just talking about in terms of the look of the film, because Mandy is such a mood, it's such a vibe. And when we switched styles, we kind of went a little bit for that look in terms of, the heavy film grain, and even the score kind of has like a Mandy influence. Okay. So that's where that comes from for me anyway.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I think we did process it. Like I needed to sit with it, but I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Okay.
Especially towards the end when it gets really ramped up and like really batshit. I was like really pumped in my seat. Like I was really riled up about it. But yeah, the way it looks is just beautiful and like so cool. And, like this like dark 80s fantasy, like just amazing. So, and K.R. Brooks, he did the
cinematography for that part,
and he did a really good job, and I thought it looked really, really cool. Just little 80s homage vibe.
So. We had a little bit of a difficult time finding a cinematographer who could stay for our entire shoot, which was not very long. But KR, again, going back to sort of the full-time job thing, KR was really only able to shoot a portion of the movie on one weekend. And so we scheduled things with him and his partner Nate Waters. They have a film company together called Into the Void Films.
Okay.
They do some really great stuff together as well.
Yeah.
And he came in on day 3 and 4 of the shoot to do all of that narrative section of the movie. And it was actually this huge sigh of relief for us when we were shooting the film, because we actually found the found footage portion of the movie way more difficult to film than we were anticipating.
Oh, okay.
You have to plan things out a lot more so that if you're trying to mask any cuts or anything like that, you don't notice them. And so when we were able to just kind of shoot a more traditional narrative style movie, it was like, oh, okay, now we can just do a bunch of takes and, like, not, we're used to this. We know what to do here.
We can see it on the monitor, like, and like,
Yeah.
sure it looks good. But the flip side of that is filming found footage goes a lot faster. All right, got it, go.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have one perspective, like with one camera.
Yeah.
And then,
You maybe do two or three takes of that and you move on.
yeah, but for this, it's like you gotta get everybody's perspective.
Right.
And I think we kind of underestimated how long that would take too, because I remember we were on a tight schedule and we were like racing the sunrise at one point. It was like sunrise is in 30 minutes. We have to get this thing.
We didn't make it. The sunrise won.
Oh no.
Yeah. So it was pretty wild. I remember like running back inside when it wasn't me, like, and like just like falling onto the couch and like napping, and then someone would run in and be like, "Shut up!" I'd be like, "Oh, okay." And like, and at that point, I'm just in a bra, like in the movies. I'm just like passed out, like dirty, tired, like running around with all the bugs and the spiders, and it was definitely an experience. But I think we did a good job, like.
But to go back to Mandy, it was just trying to create a completely different tonal shift and a completely different mood. And what's that filmmaker's name? I can never pronounce his name because he has a kind of strange name. I can't remember where's my Mandy Blu-ray?
I'm so sorry for my cats. They're really wired right now.
They're having so much fun back there.
Like, it's always
I don't hear them.
I'm on camera too. The rest of the day they're sleeping.
They're chilling, yeah.
Here's Mandy.
Nice.
Oh God, I'm not gonna be able to. The font is way too small. I don't have any lights on down here. Panos Cosmatos.
Okay.
Anyway, he's great.
Yeah.
And that was a really fun theatrical experience as well, going with Sierra to check out that movie. I'm in Central Illinois now, so I always have a lot of nostalgia when I think about stuff like that I don't get to do anymore. And Sierra had never been to the Midwest when she came out to shoot Hunting for the Hag, so she has a lot of nostalgia for the Midwest. So we kind of like flipped.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, the smell of the Midwest, like whenever I'm there, I like smell like maybe it's like the cornfields or something.
It's the humidity, yeah.
Humidity
corn sweat
on the corn and the sound of cicadas and
it's different.
flies in my titties and all of that.
Truth.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, I think like it's been. I'll have to go back. Well, and now that it's streaming on Tubi, I don't prefer Plex. I will use Plex if there's no other option and there's just something I really want to watch, but I do prefer Tubi. I have to go back and kind of and watch it and like think about these things like as I'm watching it, because it'll be interesting to be able to pick some of those things out, as I'm going through and watching it.
And if I could, Angel, let me just say one more thing about the movie that we're really excited about. We can't say too much yet, but we do have a Blu-ray coming out pretty soon. We signed a deal. We're very excited about it.
You should be. That's amazing. That's not always an easy thing to do.
Yeah, no, we're really excited.
Congratulations.
And
that's awesome.
I think that you would really enjoy some of the stuff that we've put together for this, because I'm a big special features guy. You know, I have a
Oh
big
yeah.
physical media collection behind me.
Yeah.
And we made sure that we got a lot of special features while we were shooting, you know, a lot of behind the scenes
Very cool.
footage and stuff like that. And so we're going to really try to pack the Blu-ray with a bunch of bonus features as much as
that'd be
possible.
awesome.
So stay tuned for that as well.
Yeah, yeah. And Paul's and Sierra's links will of course be in the description for this episode, so you can follow them, and then that way viewers can also keep up with that for when that comes out, because I know a ton of people that are like very into physical media, so that'll be cool.
Yeah,
to be
we're
able to
really
share that.
excited. But if you just
Yeah.
search for Into the Night Motion Pictures on Facebook or Instagram, and that's the name of our film company, so it should be pretty easy to find us.
Yeah, very cool. Well, yeah, well, thanks again for kind of walking. This was a really fun conversation. I wanted, you know, when we did the no spoiler, we were very careful about what we did or didn't talk about. And then obviously, you know, Paul, the last time you were here, we had a very specific agenda of what we were discussing. So it was cool to go back and actually get to dive into this movie a bit more. And of course, meet you, Sierra. That was awesome too. So
Yeah.
thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, of course, you guys are welcome back anytime. Paul knows that. But yeah, that's gonna wrap up, I think, this episode of Influential Horror. Once again, Paul and Sierra's links will be in the descriptions. I'll put the link for the production company too, or for the film company, so that'll be easy to find too. Make it easier for people. If they have to go
Appreciate
look for
it.
stuff, they give up. You know,
Right.
Make it easy. We'll put it in the description. But yeah, that's all we have for this one. So thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out with us in this episode of Influential Horror. We hope you have a good rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend when you get to it, and we'll see you in the next one.